Fanatic. I'm here to answer all your questions. I'll try to answer them with the best of my ability, and I hope this could be somewhat entertaining. Okay. Let's see what the first question is.
When's the review gonna be finished, goddammit?
Alright, look. They take a long time. Alright? I'm sorry. Alright, look. If I had 2.5 solid weeks of absolutely nothing to do, no work, no food, no sleep, I could do it. But let me give you an idea how long it takes me to make these things. I need about a week to play the game. So that's playing it, recording it, taking notes on it for the jokes or whatever the hell I'm going to say. Let me show you something that might be interesting. These are the notes that I took for the Final Fantasy II review. What you also have to do is take timecode notes. This is basically to make editing faster. You play a game for 70 hours, you're going to forget where things are. These are the timecode notes for the Final Fantasy II review. As you can see, every single event I'm going to talk about is noted by a number and a time. That takes a week. Then I have to write the script. That's 3 days. I got to work out the kinks, get all the spelling lines right, reorganize it. I read the script, I note what the hell I'm going to film. But as I'm doing that, I record all the dialogue. That takes about twice as long as how long the review is. My original assembly cuts usually run an hour and a half, and that was for a game like Final Fantasy 1 where nothing really happens in it. In a game like Final Fantasy 13, I'm going to actually have to talk about the plot. I got to talk about characters. There actually are characters, even though they suck. I have to waste my time talking about them. That takes, we'll say, 5 hours. Then I got to edit out all the ums and ahs and the pauses and the mistakes I make. There are plenty, as there would be for anybody. I've seen a lot of videos of people like, and you don't want to see that. And then it's not like a magic trick, okay? You gotta find all these pictures, you gotta find all these things you're gonna use. Sometimes you gotta make animations. And I'm not a professional editor, I don't really know what I'm doing. So every time I want to try something new, I gotta figure out how to do it. When I was making the Final Fantasy II review, I had to learn how to speed things up, slow things down, do a freeze frame properly, all these little things that I didn't know. And it might be obvious to somebody who knows how to edit, but not me. They didn't teach this in school, you know. The next thing I do is sit down and film all the stuff that's gonna have my face on it. When I read the script, I highlight what I'm gonna act out and perform, and the rest of it, I leave out the stuff I'm just gonna say. I edit that together, and that is really the first 3 days of production. Then it's basically whittling down the video game footage and shoving it in. Now, that is quick, I suppose. If only I knew how to make it quick, but it's not. A good rule of thumb is, if you see it for a second on a film, it took 10 to 20 minutes of work. And that's basically true, unless it's a cheaply made, posted YouTube video that I filmed with my iPhone or something outside. And I hate videos like that. I don't want to make videos like that. You don't want to see videos like that, fine. Even a video like this, I'm going to edit, you know. And this is going to take me a day, I guess. Even though this is going to be a pretty long video. And, you know, you have to spend time watching it over and over again to make sure it's funny. You got to make sure it's put together correctly. And you got to make sure it flows the way you want it to flow. And annoyingly, you might get it perfectly in the rough cut. Then when you render it, then it starts to fuck up. That's what happened to my Final Fantasy II review, which I wasn't happy about. It looked perfect, it was all HD, it was great, and then I rendered it and the aspect ratio messed up. And it kind of looks kind of weird to me. I fixed the problem now, but you know, it's too late for Final Fantasy II. I also have to conceptualize shots a little bit. Like, everyone's going HD nowadays. I don't like 1080p. I find 4:3 a much more natural thing. And when I envision shots, that's what I'm thinking about. It's kind of hard for me to do widescreen. I mean, I don't think I look that good in widescreen. I don't know. So, that's how long it would take. I can't give you a date. I mean, you know, I have to work. I like to sleep. Occasionally, I like to go outside. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it's taking so long. I make these videos for my free time. This is fun for me. But I have other hobbies. My whole life isn't just Final Fantasy games and playing bad Final Fantasy games, you know. Sometimes I like to play good Final Fantasy games. Sometimes I play other games. Usually I gotta work. I have to cook, you know. I guess the short version of this is, quit asking me. I'm going to try to do it as fast as possible. And that goes for all the reviews. Alright, what's the next question?
How did you get into video editing, and how did you start out? Are there any starting points that you would recommend to people interested in getting into video editing?
The first time I ever actually had to edit something was the top 700 list. And I figured, you know what, this is a time to learn. And what you have to do when you're editing something, you got to practice, just like with anything else. You got to waste a lot of time finding random videos, putting them together, and seeing what you can do with them. How do you put things together? How do you do transitions? How do you fade? What's interesting? What isn't? I made a couple of mistakes. You know, I'm not an expert, and if you want some tips, okay. Any professional editor will tell you I'm an amateur at best, but I can tell you some things to avoid. One, don't use Windows Movie Maker or iMovie. They're worthless. And the reason they're worthless is they don't have a lot of options. You need some sort of professional device that gives you free range to mold it any way you want. You should be able to get plugins for it. You should be able to use many tracks. You should get a program that actually says, hey, professionals have made movies on this. No one will ever make a movie with Windows Movie Maker that isn't a piece of shit that looks like, you know, looks like any AMV you've ever seen. I use Sony Vegas. There are plenty of problems with Sony Vegas. I like it because it's very easy to use and it does a lot. Adobe Premiere I know is better, but I hate the interface. I hate the whole Adobe interface. It's just not intuitive. You gotta learn all these layers and shit and masks, and when Vegas can do 98% of what Adobe Premiere can do, I don't really need that extra 2%, you know. My second tip would be learn to edit so you don't waste the audience's time. It's very easy to be lazy and not cut it in a way where you're not cutting out the flab. You're not cutting out long silences. You're not cutting out scenes where, let's say, you're walking through a corridor. Well, we don't really need to see that. Cut it to the quick and cut it to the bone so that you're not wasting my time. Nobody wants to hear you and ah. If you have a bad take and you record it badly, fix it. You have the power with editing software to fix everything. You can make it sound as good as possible. And if you're not willing to take the time to fix your problems, then you shouldn't be editing. Editing is where you make the piece of crap that you shot actually look good. Don't waste the opportunity. Try to make it clear, try to make it easy to see, try to make it easy to hear, easy to read, easy to understand. Don't be annoying like some sort of propagandist and put the words that you say on the screen like this, because it doesn't help. Remember that someone else has to actually watch your video. If it looks bad on the first take, reshoot it. I hate doing that, but you know, you gotta do it. If you think that somebody else is gonna think what you're doing is annoying, don't do it. It doesn't help you in the long run. If you have some sort of creative vision, stick to it, but you know, remember, someone else has to watch this. And for the love of God, this is my #1 advice for people just starting out. Buy a microphone. No one wants to watch one of those videos where you're just typing what you're saying. And there's a really shitty, terrible techno gay club music in the background. Everyone hates those. Don't make them. Another tip would be find a book. When you get confused and you don't know how to do something on Sony Vegas or whatever, it's very easy to go to YouTube and try to, you know, find a video of somebody who makes it. But I find most of these videos are crap. Half of them are made by like 12-year-olds. Not disparaging 12-year-olds, but they just found out, hey, look at this cool thing I can do with Vegas. And they show you the stupid way to do it. I had this huge problem with trying to figure out how to freeze frame a video like this. Most of the tutorials will tell you what you're supposed to do is take a snapshot of the video and just cut the film and stick it in. Now that's the stupid way to do it. You're supposed to do it with a velocity envelope so that you can do crazy things like this and it won't seem weird. A lot of tutorials on YouTube are either the blind leading the blind, or here's one tip. For the rest of them, buy my web book. You will get all the tips you ever need. If you want tips for Vegas, either A, look for clips of people who are older and professional editors who aren't begging for money, or B, go to the library and get a book. Seriously, the book will tell you everything. 5, editing can be very boring. Most people who make YouTube reviews or whatever, they really want to do it. They're passionate about it, but they can't fucking stand to edit it. You got to motivate yourself somehow when you edit. I like to watch the special features of The Lord of the Rings when I'm editing something, because no matter what you're doing, you know it was harder for them. So those are my tips, if that helps. What's next?
You lecture history? For what educational level? How long have you been a teacher or lecturer?
I lecture American history for college students. I'm basically a TA, but the school is so big that they let me teach a class. And this year I'm teaching American history, but I can teach world history and whatever. I've been doing it for about 2 years. It's very nerve-wracking at first. However, you learn over time that, hey, you know a lot more than these kids. I know this sounds really rude and like condescending, but it really helps with the fear. You know what you're talking about. Why are you nervous? You know what you have to say. You could fill up the hour with actual knowledge, and if you can write it down and actually figure out what to say, I mean, it becomes easy as hell. Like, really, like this. A year ago, I could not imagine I could be doing this right now, talking to you casually. But I can do it. All you got to do is get up there. The only real annoyance is I need a microphone. I can't really project to the end of the class.
Are you an education major, a history major, or both?
I'm just a history major. I think I have the knack for education without the education major. Basically, all you need to do to educate somebody is put the subject in terms that they can understand, or relate it to something that they do, and they'll grow a natural interest for it, and they'll get it better. That's it, really.
How did you become the Final Fantasy fanatic?
By uploading my first video. That's it, really. The name came from a desire to have 3 Fs. You know, FF, it becomes natural. And what is it, Final Fantasy Fool? No. Final Fantasy Fan? No. Final Fantasy Fanatic. It's obvious. A lot of people do it. I think I can lend myself a little more credibility because I've actually played all the games. I have all the soundtracks, and I have, I guess, a critical eye. It's not like it's a special personality. I'm being honest when I make these reviews. I don't want to pretend. I don't want to put on a character. Like something like the Angry Video Game Nerd. That's a character. He certainly feels that way about the games, but there is a bit of performance in it. The only time I ever perform as the Final Fantasy fanatic is either A, when I'm making a joke, or B... No, there is no B. What am I saying? The only acting I do, if you can even call it acting, is I try to pretend I'm kind of new at the game. I don't act as if I've played the game 4 billion times, because that lets you lose a bit of objectivity. I try to review it as if you know what Final Fantasy is, but you haven't played the game before. Now that you're a partner, has this done anything to increase your motivation to keep making these videos? No. The thing is, becoming a partner came so late. I thought I'd become a partner a little earlier. It's not that I don't have a lot of motivation. It's the time and, you know, the energy I have to expend. And being a partner didn't really add much. In fact, it's restricted some things. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to make a cent from these videos. And if I do, that'd be great, but it's not going to be enough. And YouTube doesn't let you be a partner on different channels. I have plenty of ideas for videos that aren't Final Fantasy related, but I wouldn't put them on this channel. And since YouTube only lets you have 1 partnership, I can't have like 2. That really limited the stuff I planned to do. And you don't make any money unless you put ads on your video. And I'm sure the second I do that, everyone will complain. So I don't know. I don't know what it will do. I haven't decided whether or not I'd put ads on my video yet. The only reason I really wanted to be a partner was that I can get unlimited video time. But the second that happened, right after I made the top 700 list, where YouTube forced me to cut all the videos up into 41 parts that nobody would sit through except for these diehard fans who I love, by the way. But now you can essentially upload a video that is 2 hours long, and you don't have to be a partner. So the whole reason I want to be a partner doesn't exist anymore. So no, it hasn't really helped my motivation.
Do you watch any other video game commentators? What are your opinions on them?
I try not to. I kind of want to be a little original, and it's very easy once you watch one of these video game commentators that you copy what they say. I don't watch Let's Plays because I hate Let's Plays. I don't know how anybody could sit there and watch a whole Let's Play. The only reason, if if I ever watch a Let's Play, it's because I'm stuck in a game and I need like a strategy guide or something. I've seen the big ones, of course. I've seen The Angry Video Game Nerd. I'm a fan. I've seen people like Armag21. I've seen Blackbuster Critic, who hasn't really been doing anything recently. And, of course, I've seen Spoonie. Now, I guess Spoonie is the guy that you want my opinion of. He's very funny. I'm a big fan. And I understand his reviews. He made a very famous Final Fantasy VIII review, which my review is going to have to kind of half debunk. That review is incredibly funny. But the problem is, he suffered a little problem. He doesn't like the game, so he stopped paying attention to it. So he makes a lot of mistakes in the plot and the issues with the game as he goes on. It's perfectly understandable that when you hate a game, you don't really care and you stop paying attention to it. I like the game. So when you say something's a plot hole and it isn't, you tend to lose credibility. He also made a Final Fantasy X review, which bashed the hell out of it, by the way. He hates that game. And I gotta say, I agree with about half of it. I disagree with the other half. My problem with that Final Fantasy X review was, it wasn't as funny as the Final Fantasy VIII review. I mean, objectively funny. It's not that I disagree with it, or I do. I mean, he just wasn't making that many jokes. I don't know. I could do better, I think. Other than that, there aren't really many other people. I like watching guys who review movies more.
I believe you said that my first FF game I played was Final Fantasy VII. So I was wondering, in what order did you play the others?
So I had no idea what an RPG was until I played Final Fantasy VII. When my brother bought it, apparently he heard of it and everyone was talking about it, and he got it a year after it came out. He played it, and as he usually does when he sees something and I don't, he usually gives away the whole story. He told me as much as possible, but he told it in such a confusing, bad way that I didn't know what the hell was going on. I played it. I loved it. I said I had to play every other game. And when I played it, Final Fantasy IX just came out. And I was told, don't play Final Fantasy VIII. Don't do it. It sucks. Oh my god. So I didn't. I played Final Fantasy VII, and I played Final Fantasy IX. I bought Final Fantasy Tactics then, which I loved. And then I went back in time. Squaresoft started re-releasing the old games on PlayStation. So then I played 6 and then 5. I was afraid to play 5 because 6 is much more famous. I played 6, I loved it. Played 5, I loved it. And then I said, let me play Final Fantasy VIII. And I liked it, so what the fuck? I don't know what everyone was complaining about. You know, I do know what everyone was complaining about. But I don't buy most of their criticisms. I just don't. I guess if I ever review Final Fantasy VIII, I'm going to have to talk about that. Then I discovered ROMs. So then I played, after 5, I played 1, 2, 3, I played 4 and Chrono Trigger at the same time. Then Final Fantasy X came out. I played that, then I played Mr. Quest, and then The Horror. And after that, I didn't play video games for 2 years. Then I basically played them in chronological order. After that, I played 12 a year after it came out because, you know, I didn't really want to buy it. I was waiting for the price to go down. I got it for my birthday, and he didn't give me the receipt. I got Final Fantasy 13 in April. It came out in March. I didn't play it for a very long time. I didn't play it until I finished Final Fantasy 2, playing it for the review. I played Final Fantasy 11 at a friend's house. And in that space between 2004 and 2010, I started playing the other games like Crystal Chronicles, Kingdom Hearts, and all the other ones.
Have you tried the Final Fantasy 13 demo?
I think you mean the 13.2 demo? No, I don't play demos. I have a bad history with demos. The first demo I ever played was the Final Fantasy 7 demo when it came out for PC. And I just remember the demo version I had froze. You see Cloud standing there in front of North Corel, and he didn't move. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what the fuck's wrong with his arms, you know? And I didn't play it. Demos don't tell you anything. And I'd rather just get the game. I haven't played 13.2 yet. And frankly, I'm not really looking forward to it. Since 13.2 is gonna be essentially the exact same premise as X2, somebody's dead, there's a mysterious man, and maybe we can revive the dead person, why the fuck would I play it? You know, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
What are your thoughts on Final Fantasy Type 0 and the rumors that Square Enix has filed trademarks for the Type 1, 2, and 3 in Europe?
Type 0 is yet another game Square Enix has re-released. I will say re-released because it's not original. That is good if you're like on the train going to your job and you just want to play a game on your portable system just to kill time. Beyond that, I see no point in playing it. I hate playing games on stuff like Game Boys or PSPs. I much prefer when I'm sitting there with my TV playing the game. Because A, it's bigger. B, I actually have to sit down and concentrate on the game. I have no other distractions. I'm not like, oh shit, I gotta work, I gotta go to school in the next 5 minutes. I'm not rushed. And, you know, something like a Final Fantasy game that's supposed to be broad and take you to fantasy, I can't see the fantasy on this. You know? I can't. I don't think Type 0 came out in America yet. But basically, it's you choose a character out of like 25 choices, and they go on this very simple quest. And, you know, there can't be much of a story. Not a real one. I mean, you'll have a, you know, he's got to defeat the wizard. He's got to go through this dungeon, and then this dungeon, and then this dungeon, and then this dungeon. And I don't care. I want an actual story with actual characters, you know. Ever since Yoshi Wada's decision to crank out a game every year, you know, you got to make it fast, so it's not going to be that good. It's kind of like the game The Four Warriors of Light, which is a game that nobody reviewed. It just went under the radar. It had good music. It was, you know, it was fun, but you'll never remember it after you play it, you know. I didn't care. And they're making a Type 1, 2, and 3, obviously. They have no other ideas. You know, they'll make Dissidia 3. They'll make Kingdom Hearts 49 because, you know, that's easy. They don't actually have to think of anything. They'll just do it. Here's how I see it. The more games like that they make, that's time they could have been spending on Final Fantasy 15 and making it good. That's my thoughts.
What graphical style would your ideal Final Fantasy 15 have?
I wrote the article for Nerdstrike, my ideal Final Fantasy game. The link's in the last video. My graphical style for my ideal Final Fantasy 15 would really look like Shadow of the Colossus. I have yet to see a more beautiful game. There's something about it, the amount of landscapes that are in it. Just make it so it's a little less pixelated, and that's what I would have. It has light, it has shadows, it's got wind, it looks wonderful. It's desolate. Like, I remember this part of the game when you have to go through this desert, and you walk in, you're like, whoa. Either that, or something like The Elder Scrolls Oblivion, that looked pretty good. You could walk around there. But I don't really want a game like that, you know, where everything is to scale. I do like the idea of the world map, that, you know, it's really like you on a big map, and you're walking on it. My favorite game, in terms of looks, is Final Fantasy VIII. I think if 7 looked like 8, you know, there wouldn't have been any mods. Nobody would have been asking for a remake. And it looked fine. Final Fantasy IX is a very pretty game, but a lot of people don't like the sprites, and I guess I'm one of them. It's cutesy, you know, and I don't like cutesy. I don't like the whole chibi anime kawaii crap, you know. But the backgrounds, beautiful. And that's pretty much the best I'd want it. Final Fantasy X looked good, and I suppose you're going to have a 3D Final Fantasy game, where all the sets are 3D. Really, you know, just that quality. It doesn't have to be any better. You know, the more time you spend on the graphics, the longer the game production has to be. So just, you know, you already got that, and it works. It's fine. No one's going to complain if you make Final Fantasy 15 look like Final Fantasy X. Really. I mean, just do it like that.
Was there a specific moment in playing these games that you decided Final Fantasy was your favorite video game series?
The weird thing is, I didn't grow up with a lot of video games. I'm really more of a book guy. I read a lot of books. I've always read a lot of books. And video games were like this weird thing that I couldn't afford. I went to friends' houses and played them. I went to arcades when they were still word arcades. And I played games like Bust a Move and Tetris. I really only stuck with 4 or so console games. I had a lot of PC games. They're great. But, none of them had plots. Or, if they did, they're like one-time games. Like, anything Sierra made. Or anything Cyberflix made. So I really only had, 3 or 4 series of games. I had Crash Bandicoot. I had, Pokemon. I had the Pokemon games. That's the only reason I have that Game Boy, by the way. And I had Final Fantasy. And for a while, it was like, why do I need another game? The moment I knew I loved Final Fantasy VII was the scene where the weapons awake.
It's still my favorite scene in any Final Fantasy. I don't think anything's going to change that. It's such an oh shit moment that it's great. And I've played a lot of games since, especially since I learned what ROMs are, and you know they just didn't compare really. I'm probably missing something. Maybe there is a series better, but I don't know. And even though I didn't play that many video games as a kid, my suspicions were confirmed by everyone else in the school. I know because everyone else had like different systems. I knew a lot of kids with N64s, which I didn't have. You know, kids with Sega Saturns, I didn't have. But the only games I'd ever talk about, really, is Final Fantasy. Have you ever felt that awesome feeling of playing one of the good Final Fantasies while playing any other game? And incredibly few. Like I said, I usually read books. And in my favorite books, you get this sort of suspense, right? Of, oh shit, the plot is so intricate, and this whole thing of like, you don't know what's going to happen next, and you're kind of amazed by the description, you're kind of identifying with the characters, and there's this moment that you learn, oh wait, there are themes behind this. The characters are actually working on a higher level, and I understand it. And that's kind of an emotional high I like. The first time I read a Shakespeare play and I got it, you know, I really got it. I got that high. My favorite book is, you know, The Count of Monte Cristo. No one would write a book like this today because it's in desperate need of an editor. It's a simple story with a lot of suspense, a lot of themes, a lot of characters. But when you get the themes, it becomes something that stays with you. I like watching the many versions of this book. There's a movie. There's a French TV version, which I think is the best one.
Je te promets d'essayer.
Le comte de Monte Cristo n'essaye pas. Il réussit.
I even love the anime. And the anime is... They kind of modernized the plot, but they did things with it that actually adds to the story. There's a couple of scenes in the beginning where they add things and, you know, it doesn't help. It doesn't add to the story at all. But they changed the ending, which is great. The book kind of has a weird happy ending. Every adaptation of the book you see always adds a happy ending that's not supposed to be there. But this anime changed the ending so much that it has, I think, even more appropriate ending. Kind of. It's a hard thing to talk about without, you know, discussing the book in the video. I've certainly felt that feeling with books. Not really with video games. Now, I was genuinely surprised when that happened to me playing Final Fantasy. And recently I played them all again, and I was thinking, you know, maybe it was just a kid thing. Maybe you know, these games were just babyish things. And I realized it wasn't. You know, some of them got really stupid dialogue. I mean, the dialogue in Final Fantasy VI is so bad sometimes that, you know, it's just, you know, you laugh at yourself playing the game. But the themes are still there, especially for the good ones. The bad ones, even though some of them aspire to greatness, you can just forget them. The only time I ever played a video game and I got that sense of suspense, and it wasn't Final Fantasy, I actually have to think it was Shadow of the Colossus. GameFAQs was making this opinion poll, and they said, what is the greatest game of the decade? It was either Final Fantasy X or Shadow of the Colossus. And I picked Shadow of the Colossus. Because Final Fantasy X, it's great, but you know, it's a story, and it's a regular RPG. Shadow of the Colossus was something that was totally new, and it was incredibly minimalist, but you know, it took me there, man. And it's kind of like watching 2001, even though I hate 2001. But you get the feeling, you get the idea, you get the suspense, you empathize with the character, I think. And it's a great game, but it's not the same because I guess the Final Fantasy games are a little more complex. For me, it's not really the game; it's the story. I need to be invested in a story. It's very easy to play a game that's very good, like Arkham City or Arkham Asylum. These are good games, but I don't care about the plot. Making a game where the gameplay might actually be a little boring. Turn-based battles get a little dull, but you care because of the story. That's much more interesting for me.
What are your thoughts on Chrono Trigger, Radical Dreamers, The Unsealable Jewel, and Chrono Cross? How would you say they compare to the rest of the Final Fantasy series? Are they as good as some of the other legends like Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, and Final Fantasy VII?
I like all three games, and I think they're good enough to be called Final Fantasy games. That's why I put them in the top 700 music list. And a lot of people don't know that a lot of what was in Chrono Trigger was supposed to be in Final Fantasy VII. And they kind of made a spin-off game. But plot-wise, they don't compare to the Final Fantasy series at all. Chrono Trigger is a great game, but the plot, you know, it's a typical video game plot. Radical Dreamers I played once, and it was good, but, you know, it's pretty forgettable. Chrono Cross was a game I bought and then had it on my shelf for like years, and then I played it, and it was okay, but it's not better than Chrono Trigger. For me, plot-wise and character-wise, Chrono Trigger is on the same level with like Final Fantasy V. It's not as good as Final Fantasy IV. It's got some great ideas, but the characters really aren't there. And it's very hard to tell a story with like time travel. So they, instead of trying to make one, they kind of didn't. The gameplay of Chrono Trigger I love. I love the whole dual tech and tri-tech thing. I love the way the battles are. I love the music. I love the way the world map is and you know, the gameplay of the game. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's got the worst romance ever. How can you have a romance between a guy and a girl and the guy says absolutely nothing in the whole game? How does that work? You know, it doesn't make any sense to me.
What are your thoughts on summons, also known as Elodians?
That's a weird question. Not much, really. In most games, it's a big attack that costs a lot of MP that, you know, basically you have a better attack that's just as good and costs a lot less. Games like Final Fantasy 6 and 7, they become useless. Like, besides Knights of the Round in Final Fantasy 7, all your summons are going to hit with 9999, and basically all your characters can hit with that much power anyway, so there's no reason to use them. I like it when the summons are included into the plot, like they were in Final Fantasy 6, 8, 9, and 10. Although 9, I didn't care about what happened in 9. I have no real opinion about what they did with the summons in Final Fantasy 10, you know, that they can take over the party. I know it helps when you're fighting some of the super bosses like Nemesis and Penance. You know, they didn't have to do it, and I don't care. I like what they did in Final Fantasy 8, where the summons had these abilities that you can learn. I think all the games should have done that. It would have gave the summons a point. But what they did in Final Fantasy 12, what the fuck was that? I mean, they're not airships. What
do you think of the Persona series?
Not much. I didn't like 1 and 2. I played 3 and 4. Persona 3, Persona 4. Persona 4 is better than Final Fantasy 12 and 13. Which is sad, because Final Fantasy should be better than all those games. And it has potential to do it. I like Final Fantasy 7 more than Persona 4. So, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you should get Persona 4. If you want to see what Final Fantasy should be doing with plot, get Persona 4. And get Mass Effect 2 also.
What are your thoughts on Kingdom Hearts' vague plot line? The whole light, darkness, in-between thing.
You said it. Vague. It's so vague, it's pointless. I mean, you can't make a good plot with random Final Fantasy characters and random Disney characters, throw them together. It's the substitute for a plot. This whole light, darkness bullshit is a substitute for a plot. I mean, what is the point of even having a plot if at any random time you can suddenly go to Alice's house, who's there for absolutely no reason, and run around Wonderland picking up items? I mean, what is that? Really? Kingdom Hearts has to be vague, because if you have to think about it for about 1 second, you wouldn't play the game. Really. I'm probably treating Kingdom Hearts unfairly, but really, it's like me playing a game, the Flintstones meet the Jetsons, and you asking me, what do you think of what Bedrock is going through now that technology is being introduced to this prehistoric society? I mean, no. I don't want to think about it. And the other thing that gets me really annoyed about Kingdom Hearts is they're fans. I mean, you could sit there and ask them, do you like Kingdom Hearts? And they'd be like, it's the greatest game of all time. It's awesome. Why? It's just awesome.
What are your thoughts on MMOs in general?
Well, I understand that they have to exist. We have the internet. People will like to play on the internet. It's fine. I don't. I much prefer, if I play a 2-player game, that the other person's sitting right there. And I get to have fun like that. I loved those days of games. And those days of games seem to be dying out. I don't like playing games anonymously. I like to know who the other person is. And if you have Xbox Live, you know what the experience is like when you have like this baby playing something like Call of Duty. I hate that too. And the problem with MMOs to me is that A, they cost money. And I refuse. I absolutely refuse to pay for a game after I bought it. I mean, what is that? Seriously. I mean, the game isn't that good. I don't care what game it is. I bought it. I don't want to pay for it anymore, you know? And they also lead themselves to bad plots. Like I said, I like stories in games. I like good stories in games. And when you have an MMO, you can't really make a good story. You gotta make it so that every single person on Earth can go through a quest in this game. And I find that MMOs are all the same. Like, you got Counter-Strike, you got Halo, you got World of Warcraft, you got Final Fantasy games, I guess, Star Trek Online. They're all like mission games, and I don't care about mission games. I want more two-player games. I want more good platformers. You can't have a platformer MMO, you know. I want a good RPG. You can't really have an RPG MMO that, you know, has a real plot. The best you can do is have games like Farmville, and if you play Farmville, I think there's something wrong with you. I don't know.
What are your thoughts on Mistwalker and Operation Rainfall? Does it have the potential to challenge Square Enix?
I don't know what they are. Sorry.
Will you be reviewing Final Fantasy 11 and 14?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't want to pay for it. If I can figure out a way to get all the footage of Final Fantasy 11, all the footage of Final Fantasy 14 without paying for it, maybe. If not, no. So, probably not. Here's my review of Final Fantasy 11. The protagonist, Zilk, is better than Final Fantasy 12. His arc is fine. And the game plays okay, but I don't like the whole, to scale world map. I didn't really care about the plot at all. And, it was okay, but it has all the problems of MMOs. You can't really have an in-depth plot with it. It has some excellent music, just like Final Fantasy 14. I wish that Nobuo Uematsu had done Final Fantasy 12 and put the Final Fantasy 11 music in it, rather than what happened. There's a lot of add-ons to Final Fantasy 11, but still, I wouldn't play it. Final Fantasy 14 is a broken piece of shit. It looks fine, the opening video is great, but then you gotta play it, you know? And after that, it's worthless. The music is fucking fantastic. I listen to it all the time. I can't go a day without listening to Desert Moon Defied, man. Let me hear it again. Kicks ass. It's the best damn battle theme I heard. With this quicksand. Make a whole thing now. There are my reviews. If you want a good Final Fantasy game, don't really look at these. That's it. And really, Final Fantasy 11 was like the first indication that the company was starting to do the wrong thing. They were going to put all their effort into this Final Fantasy 11, which really sucked on day one. But it became good with all the updates. But really, Final Fantasy is not supposed to be online, you know? It's supposed to be... You're supposed to have, you know, individual plots that you talk about all the time.
Are there any remixes of Final Fantasy songs that you like?
That's a weird question. Well, I guess you're asking me because I had that huge countdown list and I didn't put any remixes. I didn't put any remixes because I wanted to show that there are individual songs that were good. I didn't want to put 15 remixes of One Winged Angel on there. Of course I love remixes. There are plenty of them. But I love remixes that kind of stick to the original melody. I don't like it when they just go off on some tangent with techno. There are two kinds of remixes. You got the Chocobo game kind of remix where they're so unoriginal. They take other musics from other games and reversion them, and there are plenty of those I love. There's one in Final Fantasy Fables where they reversion My Home Sweet Home from Final Fantasy V. There's the Eris theme reversion from Crisis Core, which I find better than the orchestrated version, the piano version. I love everything that Uematsu did in Advent Children, and for the most part, I like the Black Mages. That I think you talk about like fan-made remixes. I love the Project Majestic mix, like 3/4 of it. When they do You're Not Alone, it's better than what Uematsu did. I love the man with the machine gun in that. But my favorite one has to be Compression of Time. It's perfect. I love that one. I like about half of Voices of the Live Stream. I love what they did to Shinra Company. What they did to Birth of a God. They also did a Final Fantasy IV one, but it's not as good. But my favorite remix has got to be this thing that the OC remix did to Terra's theme. It's amazing.
it starts out really bad, but then it gets good. I put in remixes in the new list, but then it would, take forever. I haven't really decided how I'm going to make that list yet. By the way, I can't make any remixes, but I know one of you can. And if you can make this remix for me, I would be eternally grateful, because I desperately want this. You know the song with Ty? Well, there's a YouTuber named Zing Wang who made this remix with a wonderful drum beat. But I want you to use that and replace this part of the song with Zach Perlman's violin. If you could do that, it would sound, I think, perfect. I desperately want that remix. One of you, please make that thing for me. And do the same thing with Cosmo Canyon, because I want to see what that sounds like. Give it back to me in a reply or something, please.
From your perspective, which Final Fantasy game has the most idiotic fans?
Now, I was warned not to answer this question because it would piss some people off. But I'm going to anyway. Very obviously, if you play X2, but you know it's bad, I got no problems with you. If you think it's good, if you think it's better than Final Fantasy X, and you're one of these people that say, oh, you're not supposed to take it seriously. If you're going to be one of these people that tell me, oh, it empowers women. People don't like this game because they don't want to see strong women. If you're going to tell me that it's better written and it's actually done a service to the franchise, and yes, I've heard all of this, then fuck you. I hate you. Okay? I'm drawing a line right now. That's it. But I don't really find fans that are idiots. I find fans that scare me. That, they kind of worship these games. That bothers me. I love them, but, they're video games. Okay? That's all they are. Alright? I know my name is the Final Fantasy Fanatic, but we have to have some sort of a semblance of sanity here. Okay? The Final Fantasy games, at best, are very good stories. They're wonderful fables. They're myths. They're like good literature, and I like good literature. I think they're good games. I don't think they come down from heaven. When do we get to see you shred X2? I have every line of dialogue, every joke I want to make, every single part of that damn review in my head. It was the first review I even thought of when I was making these things. But it comes down to this: I'd have to play the game again. And that's a brick wall I can't really jump over. I don't want to play the game again. Do you want to stab yourself in the face? No, I don't want to do it. Really. Probably this year, I'm going to have to bite the bullet and play it again. But damn. Fuck. And I know it's not really going to get better than that, so I'm kind of, hesitant. I would like to review Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X before I do X2. Because you need to see two things. One, how much the series fell by making X2. And two, how much X2 really just contradicts and ruins Final Fantasy X. Really. If you don't have that context, you're not going to get so much why X2 sucks. If you never played any RPG in your life, it's very obvious why the game's bad anyway. It might be fun to play, especially if you've never played any other video game ever. Fine. If you like that, I can understand why you like the game. If you don't, then you're crazy. The game's terrible. But the more you know, the worse it gets. You know what I mean? And I know a lot.
Who, in your opinion, has the stupidest weapon out of all the Final Fantasy games?
There's a lot of stupid weapons in the Final Fantasy games when you think about them. I'm tempted to say Setzer, who has a deck of cards. But you know what? That FMV made them look cool. So I can't say that. Damn. You got Kate Sith's megaphone. But you know what? He's ordering the robot to do something. Okay, I don't know why the color of a megaphone will do anything to improve that, but fine. Most of them make sense, you know, swords, guns, claws, gloves, nunchucks, gun blades. Gunblade I don't think actually makes sense, but you know, I can live with it. Keyblade's pretty fucking stupid, but I really don't consider it a Final Fantasy game. Wakus is pretty stupid, and I think Lulu's is pretty stupid, but the king of the crop for me, it's Red 13. I mean, it's a hairpin. Come on. What the fuck is that? Especially when you could have given him claws. You know, he's a dog. You could have wore these claws and just shredded people. But no, it's a fucking hairpin. Who are you going to kill with a hairpin?
I believe Final Fantasy IV to Final Fantasy X, 91 to 2001, to be the golden age of Final Fantasy. And Squaresoft speak. Do you believe in such a period? If so, when did it begin and end? Or is it still in effect?
Ooh, that's a historical question. And as all historians know, periodization's is a bitch. You shouldn't really be doing it. You know, because whenever you delineate an age, there's always a precedent that doesn't fit in the age, and there's always a discontinuity that shows, hey, maybe the age didn't start and end yet, you know? But yeah, I think Final Fantasy does have a golden age. Everyone says the golden age starts with Final Fantasy IV. I don't think so. I think it starts with Final Fantasy VI. 4 is a good game, but the plot just isn't there. I mean, it's not up to that level. 5, it's got an okay plot, but the characters aren't there, you know? 6 got there. I don't think 4 did. But certainly the golden age ended with 10. People got lots of problems with 10, and I do too now. But, you know, it's still good. There's no doubt about it. You can't say it's bad. You could say X2 is bad. You could say Final Fantasy 12 is bad. If you like Final Fantasy 12, fine. I understand. I don't like it. And, you know, there wasn't this mass production of bullshit games back in the golden age. And if it's still in effect, no, the golden age is long dead. Long dead.
How do you feel about both Dissidia and Dissidia 12 Duodecim? Do you think it was a good idea to make these games? What do you think about the characters who previously did not have a real personality, finding getting one in these games? Like Furion, the Cloud of Darkness, the Emperor, Garland, etc.
I think I said this with the Type 0 games. Dissidia is... I think about it this way. If it wasn't Final Fantasy characters, I would have never bought that game. Because I don't care about games like that. It's a tournament fighter. I have one game like that. One. I don't need any other ones. And if you care, it's a DBZ game. I'm a DBZ fan. You don't like that, too bad. It's understandable that that would be a fighting game because, you know, they fight in that show. Dissidia is a result of a bunch of guys sitting in a board meeting and going, hey, we don't have any ideas for games. We got to make something quick. Let's just dump all the characters in there and make them fight randomly. And let's give them plots. Who cares about what character traits you give them? A, you put them in a story, doesn't make any sense. So who cares? You add this shit, doesn't mean anything. And in some cases, they made it worse. Garland, to me, is such a stupid villain, he can't have a plot. So you give him one, try to make it make sense. You know, you make the first game look better. It's not. It's not better. You fool people into thinking it's good. Furion did not have a single line. No, wait, no, I'm wrong. No, I'm sorry. No, he had 4 lines. 4 in Final Fantasy 2. You give him a character? Come on. What was it? He's a hero. That's it. Cloud of Darkness? It was a cloud. It's a monster. What the fuck kind of... Come on. Why are you adding things? Ultimecia. To me, they ruined Ultimecia. Ultimecia was much more interesting to me that you didn't know who the hell she was. You know? And now they explain the ending, which I thought was self-explanatory. A lot of people didn't get it. I understand. I understand why. Believe me. I understand. If you didn't get Ultimecia, I get it. You know, in many ways, Ultimecia was supposed to be like the Eye of Sauron. You never saw her, but she was always there. And she was ruining Squall's life, and he didn't even know it. You know? You're only supposed to see her at the very end. And I thought that added a lot, even though
Obviously, the character could have been written better. And obviously, we could have found out about Ultimecia a little earlier in the game. But did it help her character that her plotline is that she teams up with another bad guy and they have a stupid conversation and then they fight Squall and... What the fuck is that? It ruined it. I just thought it was stupid. You know what this idea reminded me of? Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. You know how Reva Propulso creates all these villains and just throw them into the pit and they have to fight like crazy? That's what it was. I mean, come on. I can't take that seriously. And now they make this idea to do this. You know, I know it means, I know duodecim means 12, but now your name is Dissidia 1212. What the fuck is that? Why? And every time Final Fantasy makes some sort of fighting game, like Urguys, I mean, who remembered Urguys? Really? They did this already. Why do they think of such stupid names like Dissidia? What does that mean? Was it a good idea? I mean, the fact that this is their only game now, that is what hurts. Nobody bought it. I've been to stores. I've seen boxes of unsold Dissidias just lying there. Nobody cares. They're terrible. People bought Crisis Core. Nobody bought this. You know, like I said before, the more games like this they make, that's less time they're spending on actual games. That's that simple. You might enjoy Dissidia, but you'll enjoy it for like a half hour. Maybe you'll finish the game. Maybe you'll unlock everything. But then you'll never play it again. I could never say that about any actual Final Fantasy game. You know, except X2.
If you could choose from all the Final Fantasy characters, who would be your super Final Fantasy party?
The guy who posted this question kind of said that was a stupid question, and it might be a little. That sounds more like this idea to me. I see these games with plots and characters. It'd be kind of weird to put Cloud and Squall in the same place, because they're really not related. They're in different stories, they're different people, and oh wait, Kingdom Hearts did put them together. Right. Yeah, because that made a lot of sense. And I guess I take all the cool guys. I take Auron. I take Barrett. Barrett's probably got the coolest weapon. I love the idea of having a machine gun on the hand. I would take either Sabin or Zell because they're very powerful powerhouses that are kind of underrated in the games. And Cloud or Squall. Not Cloud. Cloud's better. Anything else really? Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, that's my party. Auron, Sabin or Zell, Cloud, and Barrett.
Where did Dravis come from in the Final Fantasy II review? And will we see more of that in the future?
I don't know if you're going to see it again. I tried it. I think I did it okay, but then I could have done it a lot better, and it was kind of hard. Dravis is a character from one of the first games me and my brother ever played called Descent. Descent is essentially a ripoff of Doom. It's instead of monsters, you're in the spaceship and you shoot robots. There's an evil corporation called the PTMC, the Post-Terran Mining Corporation. They have mines on like every moon of the solar system. Some sort of virus infects all the robots mining, and they started attacking all the workers there. So it's your job to go into every single mine and blow up the mines before the virus spreads to Earth. And the representative of PTMC that talks to you is this guy named Dravis. If you play all the games, he's like the most evil, sick, piece of shit corporate asshole. The way this guy screws you over and over and over again, I'll never forget that guy. The Dravis you see, that's the Dravis in the first Descent game. If I think of a corporate asshole that just forces you to do shit that you don't want to do, and then fucks you over at the end, and then makes you do it again, and then makes you do it again for no fucking reason, it's Dravis. If you like Dravis, you'll see him again. What exactly is your book that you're writing about? I've gotten a lot of personal messages, people sending me their ideas for either a fantasy game or Final Fantasy 15. And a lot of them were hesitant to reveal all the details to me. You know, this is my book. This is what I've been working on for like 12-something years. You know, it's very hard for me to reveal what's in my book. I'll try to be vague about it. And, you know, it's not going to be finished anytime soon. Basically, I had the idea of making a fantasy story in the modern world. Kind of like Final Fantasy 7 did and 8 did, and then I saw that the fantasy world could work in the medieval world, and I wondered, what about a fantasy world in the transition, right, from medieval to modern? What would that suggest? The whole political machinations that would unfurl, the questions that would be asked. It's essentially a war with two empires, and the main characters are on the losing side. A lot of the books, the aftermath of that. I want the story to be somewhat reminiscent of the Book of Job. I want to create something that shows, I will say, how nations die. That's a very vague response, but I don't really want to get any more detailed than that. It's a very difficult story to tell because it's kind of big, and you don't really know where to start. And I haven't yet found a happy ending. It's not that I want a happy ending, but my ending's going to be a little depressing, but I'm not satisfied with my ending yet. Everyone has a novel in their closet that they're locked away and they don't want to talk about it at all, and, you know, so do I.
What are some character traits from the Final Fantasy cast, all the games, that you felt worked in the context of the game that they were present in? What traits did you not like and why?
Well, I hate it when they don't have a character, or they copy a character from the absolute worst parts of anime. I like anime, but I like good anime. I don't like shitty anime. I don't like anime where the episode is exactly the same over and over again. Something like Endurance Cerberus, a character like Shulk. She has no personality. She has she's like this emotionally dead person but she's somehow the key to saving the world, right? It was unbearable to watch Shulk.
Shulk the Transparent. What a fitting name that is, because your personality is so blatantly invisible and you're so boring. I mean, if anyone relates to you or even likes you, it only means they have absolutely no personality either.
And I thought she would be the absolute worst character in Final Fantasy. But you had Pain, you had Shulk, and then I played Final Fantasy 13.
You know, I'm tired of these modern Final Fantasy characters having no depth and just the only personality change they have is like clothes. I can write most of what they do on an index card. Cloud, Squall, people could write essays. People have. Look at any wiki about these characters. The real ones have very long articles. These new guys, nothing.
I hate happy-go-lucky characters too, because they're just annoying. They don't have to work. They don't undergo any trauma. Yay, I'm in a video game, I'm in an adventure! I don't care. What I do like is when characters are very unsure of themselves. When they have to discover who they are. They have to grow up. That's what I like. I like multi-dimensional characters. I like the fact that Zidane was a very human being. He had his frailties. He tried to cheer everyone up, but he was really a loser. I really think Zidane's a virgin. And then when he finds out he's like a clone that's been built to destroy the world and is really not really a human being, he has that moment of weakness, and then it doesn't matter to him anymore. He is who he is. That's interesting to me. It's an arc. It's a journey. I don't like characters that are just there. I don't like characters that don't have an arc. A lot of characters in Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX were just there. Armorant, he was just there. Selfie, she was just there. Events do happen to these characters, but it's like one thing. Who cares? It never comes up again. But even these characters I don't like, they're better than what's going on in Final Fantasy 12 and 13. I admire characters like Cecil more than I admire characters like Bartz from Final Fantasy V, who's just happy, he's adventurous, he's a hero. He had one bad thing in his life, and that's it. But it hasn't affected him at all, and it doesn't come up again, and he's just there. He's a blank slate. I think 7 had the best characters, because the game actually spent the time and used them. There were a couple that fell through the cracks, like Vincent and Red 13. You could have explored these characters a lot more than the game did, and Kate Sith really, but they had enough moments where I could see them as people. A game like X2 where you had this incredibly useless, what the fuck are you even doing here character called Pain, and Riku who's just ungodly annoying, and Yuna who's like, I had a character last time, let's just completely ignore that. That's horrible.
Who is the most developed character in the series and why? What was it about that person that really stuck out to you?
I really don't want to answer this question because, look, I know the answer. I know I'm right about this answer. And I know the second after I say it, I will be hunted down like this every day for the rest of my life. I know this. I know nobody is going to agree with me. I know I'm going to be fighting this tooth and nail constantly from now on. The best character in the entire Final Fantasy series. The most perfectly realized, and I would say character that goes on the best arc. The character that's most interesting to me is Squall. Now I know everyone hates him, but I can't. But it's basically because you don't understand him.
And you don't really understand it because he was introduced badly. I think if they just had rewritten the game a little bit,
you could have made him a little more accessible. But in my opinion, it's a problem that you can easily surmount. I understand how frustrated he is, how motivated by fear he is, how he just does not want to be burdened with all these problems. And then he is able to change. Now this is the point about Squall everyone forgets. He's a dick the first 2 discs. He changes into somebody who has to learn what to be, you know, as a real hero. That change is done so subtly, I love it. I'm sorry. That's it. A lot of the other characters are pretty well written, I think. But Squall was such a big risk. It's very hard to make a game where that's the protagonist. You know, a loner who just doesn't want to deal with it, really. And I wish Final Fantasy VIII's plot was a little better, a little tighter, so that people would understand how good that character is. But it's not. What interests me about him is that he reacts how a person like that would react. He's motivated by fear, but you don't know it for the longest time. And when you find out, it all makes sense, you know? And he actually has to change. You know, when Squall smiles at the end, he has changed so much. He has grown. Now, I don't see that in some other games. I don't see it with Zidane. He reaffirmed himself. Yes, but he didn't grow as a person. Cloud understands who he is. He didn't grow up. Terra is a great character, and so is Cecil. And they find out who they are, but it just wasn't as good for me as Squall was. And Titus is just annoying. Everyone thinks Squall is just an emo loser, can't stand him. No. I remember reading this comment on a webpage it was like a website. The most annoying characters in Final Fantasy. Squall is number 8, right? And the comment was essentially, well, you know what? We're playing a video game. We're here to have fun. We don't want to see a character with real problems. We don't want to see a character that's frustrated and annoyed. No. I'm like, that's the perfect character. I'm sorry. If you can relate to him. If you can understand him. And then we can watch that guy change into a real hero. Lose all the crappy qualities and insecurities that we all have and become something better. I mean, what the fuck? That's the guy I want to see in a Final Fantasy. I want to see, like, I don't want to see generic knight with sword. I understand. He's not acting like a typical protagonist, asking all the women out like Irvine is. I understand that since he's still growing up, he doesn't always do the right thing. He doesn't sometimes know when to do the right thing. And there are times when he just stands there like an idiot, like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know what to do, and he's paralyzed by this indecision. I understand that. Maybe you didn't. And if you didn't, okay. But I did. I want to see that. I want to see that guy become the hero. You know, not all the time, but at least once. And if you hate Squall, fine. You know, I'm too old to have this argument, really. There's a very close runner-up, and the difference between them to me is so minuscule, they're practically on the equal level. I like Squall better, but Ramza from Final Fantasy Tactics is also one of the greatest protagonists in the series, and absolutely no one talks about him. We're talking about a guy who grew up as, we'll say, an aristocratic thug. His brother's a dick. His brother's one of these noblemen who has absolutely no honor. But because of where he's born, the people around him, that's how he grew up. He respected him. And he turns from this thug into this character who learns that the right thing to do is to be a selfless hero. And the whole political system he's in utterly caves down around him. Everything turns against him. He's even branded by history as a traitor. But none of it matters. He did the right thing. That whole change for that character is written so well. I will never forget it. So if you hate Squall, Ramza's the best guy. I don't think we're going to even have an argument about that. But interestingly, both Squall and Ramza, even though I think they're great characters, they're both trapped in this problem. They're surrounded by lesser characters. Cloud's a great character. I don't think he's the best protagonist the series ever had to offer, but he's surrounded by equally good characters. Zidane is an okay character, and he's surrounded by, I think, characters that complement him well. Garnet, Steiner. I hate Steiner, but it's not that he was written badly. I just don't like him. And Vivi. Those 4 guys are great. All the other characters, I couldn't care less about. But it's those 2 that, if the rest of the game was shit, I'd still love it because of them. Alright, there's one more question, and I guess I saved the best for last. And it was asked by my first subscriber, Alex15807.
Do you think there's a better future coming for Square Enix and their Final Fantasy games? Or is this journey of Final Fantasy games slowly coming to an end?
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. The journey's over. Unless Yoichi Wada is fired, and I am proclaimed head of Square Enix, there won't be another Final Fantasy game like the old days. So here's I proclaim my campaign. No, I'm just kidding. No, the fact is, Yoichi Wada has explicitly said several times, Final Fantasy 13 was a financial success. Final Fantasy 14 is a financial success. That's good. We don't want to be wasting our time and resources making a game that takes 5 years anymore. He wants to make a new game every year, or every 2 years. And when you do that, you just can't have a plot like that, like the old games anymore. You got to make shitty little games like This Is D and Type 0 and whatever. He said many times, we don't want our grandkids to be playing a game like Final Fantasy 54. That would just be silly. You know, he wants to broaden the market so that, you know, families will be playing games. So, you know, games will be more accessible to people like old people and kids. And he wants to go on the Wii where they'll make smaller games. And he said the next Final Fantasy is going to be Final Fantasy 15 will be Final Fantasy Crystal Beginnings. And it's going to be a text game you can play on a cell phone. You see this? I don't want to play a Final Fantasy game on this. Okay? This sucks. Alright? I'm not going to get a good game from this. I don't care what it is. Really. He said it time and time again. This generation of RPGs has reached its conclusion. If you want a good if you want a good RPG, you got to go somewhere else. And it's sad. I don't want to say this. I really don't. But it's over. They'll make 13-2, they'll make another sequel, they'll make another bullshit thing, but it's not going to be good. And, you know, the wrong people are there. Uematsu's gone. Amano's still working, but he's getting taken over by Tetsuya Nomura, who's becoming more and more half-assed. He's working on Versus. He doesn't really care about the rest of the things. Sakaguchi's gone. They replace him with an idiot, Toriyama. They got what's his name? Daisuke Watanabe, who really is the guy who writes filler for video games. Now he's actually writing the video games. I mean, you know, what's the point? He sucks. Like, Najima's not really there anymore, you know. Now we're just gonna have stuff that says Final Fantasy. I mean, it really has to do with this whole Final Fantasy VII remake thing. They're not gonna do it. They're gonna pick the easiest one to do. The easiest one to remake is probably Final Fantasy X, and they'll probably remake Final Fantasy 12 too, or X2 or whatever. If it's too expensive for them to remake a game where, you know, everyone likes, it's obvious it's gonna make money. They already got the game, they got the script, they got everything they need. Then we've got to the point where the graphics are, you know, they're too good for their own good. And the really annoying thing is they could do it if they just wouldn't try to make it look like Final Fantasy 13. If they made it look like Kingdom Hearts, they could finish it in a year. But they just won't do it. You know, Squaresoft cared. Square Enix does not. Square Enix seems to refuse to actually spend time thinking about an actual game anymore. And, you know, I can't see it getting any better. Hey, there's still books. Well, that's all the questions. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thank you for watching.
Man, that was a downer. Sorry.
Look for the silver lining whenever a cloud appears in the blue. Remember, somewhere the sun is shining, so always look for the silver lining and try to find the sunny side of life.
Try not to shoot your stuff in one take, because you're going to get a sore throat. Oh god, I know it's coming.